Kiesha Arielle, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thanks so much for agreeing to do this. I think that a lot of the things that you say. Well, first, let me say that I I found your channel uh, probably due to the Kevin Samuels reviews,
Mhm.
sort of reaction
Yeah,
kind of videos that you've been doing,
right.
and uh, much of what you say is uh, countercultural. It is it's not the usual sort of take. It's not the usual uh, female take
Hmm.
of many of the things that he says, because he's pretty kind of right between the eyes. He's not taking anything off. He's pretty consistently criticized for being um,
Direct.
for his yeah, for his tone, right. Very direct in his tone and all like this. But it's hard to argue with what it is that he's saying. um uh and of course, and this is one of these things that uh it's unfortunate that this is the case,
Hmm.
because in my mind, uh eating the meat and spitting out the bone,
Yeah.
that's just being an adult, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Because you're not going to agree with 100% of anything that anybody says. Look, I go to church and the
Hmm.
preacher is preaching, and I'm like, that doesn't seem right to me. That's just the way that I am,
Hmm.
and it's called critical reasoning.
Hmm.
But for whatever reason, it's like when we were talking about certain sort of polarizing figures like Kevin, it's like you have to constantly qualify. Well, I don't agree with everything this guy says. I don't agree with every. It's like you have to spend more time saying that than
Right.
actually discussing what it is that he's
Right.
actually saying.
Hmm.
So, so, so why is it that the Kevin Samuels sort of review videos had sort of became a thing? What is it about Kevin that is appealing?
For me, as to why I began, well, to be 100% honest, um, what was appealing to me was his very direct approach, right?
Mhm.
And I am the type of person that like people to be direct with me. I always say, like, to anybody, like my friends, my husband, people who know me, I'm like, I prefer you to tell me the truth and let me go cry about it and then come back, right? I prefer you to be direct with me. And when it came to Kevin Samuels, actually, it was my husband who put me on to Kevin Samuels, right? And my husband was like, well, most women don't like him. So I'm just letting you give you a heads up. Don't want you to feel like I set you up or anything. um, so my husband was like, Kevin more speaks from a man's perspective, like showing how a man really feel, because my husband knew that I'm aware of Derek Jackson, and I used to listen to Derek Jackson's content, and my husband hate him. He doesn't like him. So my husband was like, no, you need to listen to someone like Kevin who really gives it from a man's perspective. And
Mhm.
obviously we know what Derek Jackson is about. He, as people say, panders to women and how they feel. So when I was hearing Kevin Samuel's take on stuff, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm really getting into the mind of a man. And I felt like that would help me understand how men think. And obviously, obviously me understanding how men think will also help me in my own marriage as well. Right. So no marriage is perfect and nobody knows the opposite sex like that well. But having an insight of what men think, how men process things, I found that very intriguing. And I also found that he was really honest about what he was saying, especially with the callers that would call into a show. And, it was quite entertaining for me, but also an eye opener for me, right? Because I genuinely didn't believe women were what most men thought they were. I know that kind of sounds, hold on, let me just twist this. I know that kind of might sound kind of weird, but my brother, I have a 22-year-old brother, right? And when me and him would speak, when he would tell me about how women are, it's like, oh, these women are this, these women are that. And I'm like, no, women are not like that. And he's like, no, Kiesha, they don't make women like you no more. And I'm like, no, I think you're just exaggerating. But when I was able to listen to Kevin and hear what my brother was pretty much saying to me being, displayed over here, I was like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. And, I wanted to just share my thoughts, opinions, and experiences on certain things. And I just thought I'd do that through my reactions. And also just I was really hoping to help women see things better, but it didn't quite go that way. It didn't quite go that way. The women are telling me I'm pandering to men. Well, not all of them, some of them. And I'm like, what? Pandering just because I can agree with what he's saying, because some of you guys seem quite delusional when you come through on the phone. So yeah, so that's pretty much what attracted me to him, his directness and his upfront take.
Have they called you a pikmi yet?
Oh yes, I've been called a pikmi and I've been called a mammy. I think those are the two that I've got so far. And I'm like, what?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a point that I've made frequently. Mm-hmm. What we're calling pikmi now, mm-hmm. if we went back to a time when black families were much more intact, 2 parents, a much lower out of wedlock birth rate, in the 15%, something like that. When you go back then, virtually all of the women were pikmis. Wow. That's why they got picked, right? And I saw, I was watching, I can't remember, I think it was one of Danica Marie's live streams or something. Mm-hmm. And, she frequently says, I'd rather be a pikmi than a pass me.
Right, yeah.
And, I mean, it's amazing and incredible to me that because certain women are wanting to understand things from a man's perspective so that they can make adjustments to be more attractive to men, mm-hmm. and hopefully doing it for the right reasons and hopefully doing it in a permanent way, not just sort of making the change so that they can catch somebody and then reverting back, obviously we, that's not what is being condoned here, right? We're talking about real change.
Yes.
But it's amazing that those kinds of women get called names.
Right.
Because it seems to me that that's what both should be doing. Now, in our society, both men and women, in our society, men have been told ad nauseum what women want. Ad nauseum. And women can have this laundry list, ridiculous long list of all of these qualities that the guy has to have, and many of which are not even ones that the guy can control. Right? So there's like a height thing. There's a, so like a lot of short guys, they just don't have a chance.
Right.
And it's okay for women to criticize a man for being short, and pass him by and say, hey, you're short, so I'm going somewhere else.
Right.
But if there was a sort of, the other side of that, whatever the version for women, for a guy to judge, if he does that, then, he gets canceled.
Right.
And women can control their weight, but a guy cannot control his height.
Right.
So it's just like, come on, man. Like, what what are we supposed to do?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Women are, I don't know what it is with women where when, like, as you mentioned, they have all these expectations and requirements of a man. But when a man have those, the equivalent, for what he desires in a woman, it's like, well, accept me as I am. It's like, wait, no. If you won't even accept him as...
Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
Wait, no, if you won't even accept him as he is, why should he just accept you as you are? Like you mentioned, a man cannot change his height, but a woman can control her weight. You know, so it's like, this is something for a man that I cannot change, but this is something for a woman that you can change. And why is that a problem? And, you know, I kind of recently touched on this about this body positivity thing, where women, it's like this way of masking, not masking, but like, I guess kind of pandering to women's feelings when it comes to their weight. Like, oh no, you're beautiful as you are. It's like, no, all right, okay, cool, you're beautiful as you are. How about, do you not want to look more beautiful, more in shape, more attractive, you know, lose a little bit of weight and, you know, be more appealing? But no, it's like, no, accept me as I am and that's it. No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, you know, with the body positivity thing, you know, I've got a live streaming show called Thunder's Thoughts, and it's on 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. And I did an episode called The Rise of the Self-Esteem Crisis.
Hey.
And I reviewed a Jordan Peterson video and another video, but one of the videos that I put on was just talking about the whole body positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's no body positivity for men.
Right.
If you are overweight or obese as a man, you're just a big fat slob.
Right.
And it's okay for and honestly, it's okay for women to even say that.
Say that, exactly. I was
And
thinking
to
the same thing.
Yeah, and to like specifically say, yeah, I don't date fat slobs, and you know, and that be the way that they reject you. But of course, you would get canceled with the quickness if you were to say something like that to a woman.
Let me tell you, women are too sensitive. I understand women are more emotional, but if you're so emotional, you're supposed to be able to can tap into your emotional intelligence and know that you can't speak to another person like that if you don't want no one speaking to you, right? So it's like women expect men to be this tough exterior. Men can take it, but I'm a woman, I can't take it, so don't do it to me, but I can do it to you. And that's not fair. As they say, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Yeah.
Treat people how you want to be treated.
That's
you
right.
know? So
right. Not do unto others as they've done unto you, or do unto others as you think that they, you know, have done unto you or would do unto you if you gave them the chance. But do unto others as you'd have them to do unto you.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like the way things are now, it's almost as if that's like a sign of weakness, like to have that sort of, you know, I want to treat people well,
right,
because I want them to treat me well. You know, it's like, yeah, but what if they take advantage of you? I don't want to look like a sucker. You know,
right.
You know, it's like that whole thing, and it's like, at some point we have to get rid of this. You know, the optics. It's always about the optics, what it looks like. It doesn't matter what things actually are. You know, it's about what it looks like it is. You know?
Yeah, and it's funny because if you feel like if you're doing something, especially if it's someone you want some, you know, if you're trying to make it work, especially like a relationship, and things don't go well, because marriages, relationships, any relationship, full stop, people are gonna things are not always nice, right? So sometimes you're nice to your significant other and they're not nice to you in whatever the situation is. And what it takes is for conversations, expressing how you feel, right? And then working on it. Because people have to also remember that two individuals come from two separate walks of life and deal with things differently, right? So it would have to take for you guys to come and sit down and talk about it. Like, I've done this, oh, you've done this to me and I don't like it. We need to work on change. And I notice a lot of people when they think, when you have a conversation, they think that, okay, things are going to just change immediately, etc. But I'm not saying things shouldn't change immediately, but I'm saying like there may be some slip ups. There may be some, oh, snap, I kind of fell off again. But it's all about, it's a work in progress. And then it's
Yeah.
going to be like, okay, I get it. We can't do this. Because, you know, they have to come out of that habit. They have to break that bad habit. You know, because habits don't just happen overnight. It's something that you keep practicing and practicing. And now when you're trying to break a bad habit, you can take your time, practice and keep in mind the other person, and things will be good. So don't think I'm gonna jump in this relationship or whatever, and what if I treat this person nice and they treat me horribly? Now, if they continue, all right, if they keep persisting and you can see that they're not trying to change, then that's a different story. But if it's a thing of, I can see that this person is making changes, okay, they messed up here, you know, it's all about just working with people, if you see what I'm saying. Because people who've been together 40, 60 years, you think they haven't had issues?
Of course they have.
Etc. But yeah,
of course they have. You know, my parents are still together. I think they're 52 years. And yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, I think about that. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so incredible.
yeah.
And what it seems like what people do today is they're quick to find sort of like a counter narrative to that. Well, you know, they're just still married because, because back then women didn't have options, or you just try to find some kind of way to like undercut the beauty of two people being able to stick together for that long. I've been married it'll be 14 years this month.
Oh wow, that's so lovely.
Thank
me
you.
and my husband's been together, it's coming up on 8 years, like officially been together 8 years, but we've known each other over 8 years now. But yeah, it's coming up to 8 years for us.
Well, that's beautiful. Congratulations. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. It's challenging.
Yes.
But it may be the hardest thing that you do, but it's the most worthwhile. It's the most important thing to do, is to stay together. I have a son. He's 8 years old. And the fact is that I don't know, at some point people need to stop thinking about themselves so much.
Yes.
When you split up a family, you are condemning your kids to a meager existence. It's going to totally destroy. It's going to destroy their relationship prospects. It's going to destroy, their just thought of what a positive relationship is supposed to be. And before I hear people thinking or saying, yeah, but if it's not a healthy relationship, that can be just as bad for the kid.
Yeah.
Look, all the studies show, as long as there's not abuse occurring, okay,
yeah.
all the studies show that staying together is way better for kids than splitting up. And even if you're having a hard time getting along, it's still better. It's just better. Look at what's out here. This is. You think splitting up is better?
No, and to your point as well, right? Because as I have shared on my channel, when I met my husband, I had a child from a previous relationship, right? And from my experience in when that relationship ended, I could tell that splitting up is not really in the child's best interest. Now, my situation there, it was, me and my husband, we've had conversations about my past relationship, and my husband understand, and he could see that, okay, what I say checks out, and, whatever that situation is, it was, right? But when you have split a family, that child is in two different households. mom operates this way over here and dad operates that way over there. And when a child don't have stability and consistency in how, you know, your parents are raising you, it can cause not friction, but like your child can, for example, my son, the way how he is with me, he is not that way with his dad, because his dad is a little bit more, you know, not as strict as I am, so he can get away with a lot of things while he's at his dad. But when he's with me, he can't get away with those things, so he will try the little things that he can get away with there with me, and it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. So it's like two different type of parenting styles, and the child is like, wait, I can do this here and I can do that there. But if a child is under one household and one kind of parenting style, it's gonna be more of a directing of, okay, this is how I operate in life, rather than, oh, I can do this over here and I can do that over here. I'm just kind of floating in the middle. You know what I'm saying? So
yes, I do.
Is better for that child and the family. And like you mentioned, it's hard, but it's better. I mean, not that it's hard, but relationships are hard, but it's better that you stay together for the sake of your family. And like you says, unless it's abuse or anything else that is just, listen, this is just not it, then yeah.
Right. But right. I mean, it seems to me, it seems to me that the two scenarios would be abuse or some sort of drug addiction. Right. It seems like those would be the situations where I may actually advocate for a separation, even if it's not divorce, though. So it could be okay. We just need to. We just can't be in the same place. And maybe eventually things change, and then we can put this thing back together. Mm-hmm. So I may advocate for that. But I mean, the Bible's pretty clear about, you know, God hates divorce and all of this kind of stuff, and there's a reason that language is in there. You know, it's because
God hates divorce. I mean, obviously the saying that the biblical scripture that say what God put together no man can
right
apart or whatever. Separate, yeah, I couldn't remember exactly. But is that based off the New Testament? Or I know I don't want to go biblical, that's not what my point is. Right. Because you mentioned that you know, I used to be my Bible a lot, but I know in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy, it actually speaks on like a husband can actually write a bill of divorcement to his wife, and also I believe it's also in the New Testament, but I can't remember exactly what scripture. But I know it. Yeah,
so there's something in. There's something in one of the Gospels that talks about except for what does it say?
I think it's spiritual fornication.
Yeah, right. Well, they're actually talking about the physical fornication there, except for the case of adultery, that divorce is not is not appropriate or whatever. That's the sort of thing in the New Testament. The thing I was referring to as far as God hating divorce, that's from the Old Testament. Now, yeah, I mean there obviously are situations where it's just not a good situation. It's not a good idea to stay together, like I said, and we cited a couple already. But what people are doing now is getting divorced, you know, thank you, no fault divorce, or getting divorced for just totally ridiculous reasons. Well, you know, he doesn't make me tingle anymore. It's like, really? That's a valid reason? That's a reason to split your family up? Is because...
Is this for real?
You know, look, you they really don't make them like you anymore. Yes, it's for real. It's for real. I mean, there's you know, he doesn't make, you know, he doesn't make me tingle anymore. You we're not in love anymore. There's all of these different things that people do, and of course, I'm picking on women, but men do the same sorts of things. Okay, but we know that in black marriages, in particular, women are the ones that are filing for divorce 80 to 90%. And for the most part, men tend to just weather the storm. It's like, hey, I signed up for this. I'm just going to, hey, it ain't the greatest, but hey, I'm just going to stick around. And they're just as dissatisfied and unhappy with what's going on as the women that are leaving.
Did you say they're satisfied and unhappy with what's going on?
I said they're just as dissatisfied and unhappy with what is going on in their relationships, but they just say, hey, I signed up for this. I'm, duty, all of that kind of stuff, and I'm just going to stick it out.
Yeah. And I think the reason why men are more, able to say, I'm gonna stick this out, as everyone says, and I can also understand as well, that they say men are more logical. They will sit and reason things through. And women, we sometimes, our emotions, because I'm not gonna sit here and act like, I don't get emotional when I'm angry, and sometimes I'm like, I want a divorce. But when I sit down after I've calmed down my emotions, right, I'm like, nah, that is not what I want. I really want to be with my husband. So I think most women, they just act on their emotions without just allowing their emotions to subside, give it a day or two, and then really sit and think, is this what I really want? Instead of just acting out of impulse. I'm gonna show him, I'm gonna let him know I'm for real. But it's like, is that the best thing for you though? Especially given the current climate that we're in, like, there's not many good men out there in a sense of the type of men that these women consider good and what they're looking for. And also for the men who want to break up, you really want to go out there to these current modern day women that probably ain't. Look, I cashed out right in time. I was like, oh my God, I would not want to pick from what's going on right now.
Oh yeah, it's slim pickings. But yeah, I cashed out right in time. To give folks an idea, I taught my wife how to text message. So when we met, around the time we met, within the first couple months, I taught her how to text message. So because that technology was brand new right then.
At the time. And
so that gives you an idea of the window, because now you got dating apps, social media, all the Instagram, all the thoughting.
Right? Trust me. It's funny you said that, because I just did a video and I was like, you know what? I think I want to talk about that in another video. But the thoughting is off the chain, huh?
Oh, it's totally ridiculous. And the thing is that, do you really expect a guy to take you seriously after you have shown everyone all of your goods? Like, exactly. Why? Exactly. Something I've thought about this. I'm a professor. I'm an academic, and at the school that I teach at, and I've seen this sort of transformation. I remember when, I've been working at the same institution for long enough to remember when most women were, girls were actually still wearing kind of jeans. Maybe they were tight jeans, right? But they were wearing jeans. And that sort of transformation from that to yoga pants, right? And this whole kind of athleisure thing, right? So now everybody is wearing this stuff. And it's like, look, I know you are not going to the gym, and you're not coming from the gym either. So why do you have this form-fitting stuff that shows everything that you have in every single one of these young women are wearing these clothes, and I'm like, you do know that everybody can see everything. And what that means, it's not just about getting the attention from, the guys that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about that. It's also the toothless homeless guy that's on the corner. He also gets just as much a view.
Oh, no, that's true.
And so it's like, look, you got to be. Look, I'm not a prude. I'm not whatever. That's fine. It's just, you can't complain about what you get.
Yes.
When you're you're putting all this bait, right? You're putting all this bait out there, and you're attracting all of this stuff, and it's like, I don't know if that's what you want to do.
I think it comes down to their ignorance as well, women's ignorance. I think, because there was a time back in the days, women only wore skirts and dresses, and with the times, how it's changed, women started becoming more sexy and dressing the way they are today. And I'm not gonna lie, there was a point before I really had to sit down with myself. I used to dress sexy, if you want to say, but that was down to my ignorance, right? And it's interesting though, because when I lived with my dad when I was younger, I had to wear a skirt, could not wear pants at all, because my dad, he being Rastafarian, they do read the Bible as well. And my dad, in the Old Testament, he talks about what a woman should wear. A woman should not wear anything which pertains to a man, right? So trousers, you don't want to be wearing trousers. So my dad always had me wearing skirts and stuff like that. And when we would go to, their spiritual settings, I had to cover my head and all of these different things. So I was kind of aware of that. But then when I, moved from underneath my dad's home, roof, I'm like, well, I'm my own person. I can be how I want to be, etc., and dress how I want to dress. But when I transitioned back into my spiritual journey, and I started getting into the scriptures, and I started realizing, wait, I really can't dress like this. This is not how I'm supposed to dress. And I've just switched from dressing the way I used to now being more modest, covering myself, etc., to the point where, to this day, the only time you'll ever see me in trousers is if I'm wearing sweatpants, not leggings that suck onto me.
Oh yeah, right.
I wear, and you will see me in sweatpants only in the winter, like it's winter time now, and I'm only just dashing to the store and coming back. Because even like the other day, me and my husband went out, I wore a dress. I'm always in dresses, aside from when I'm wearing sweatpants, if I'm just gonna run to the store and come right back home. But yeah, I think it comes down to ignorance and this, I guess, liberal, they say, women are somewhat liberal and free and we can just do what we want to do. But when I was under my dad's guidance, my dad's authority, my dad's rulership, it was skirt, dresses, cover your head. So that's how I'd say, like, women today, and I'm not picking up for them though, but I'm just going off of just where I was. It was just an ignorant thing. And my mind got fixed up real quick though, and I'm back to being modest. And my husband, would not even, I couldn't even try going out the door with anything too fitting, like leggings and stuff. Like, what? He'd be like, where are you going? Not that I would try that anyway, but I'm just saying, he would be like, right. Excuse me?
Well, it's interesting. You use the modest word. That's like a bad word now. Modest. Here's another bad word. Submissive.
Oh my God.
Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna go through a few of these words. Okay, obedience, or obey. That's a bad word. Cooperative.
Or serve.
Serve, yeah. Matter of fact, I was watching one of your videos, getting ready for this, and you were talking about serving your husband.
Yes.
That's, hey, I don't know. I don't know if you're allowed to say
I
that
was like,
anymore.
I know these women gonna come for me.
Yeah, that's right. You were talking about how you were willing to homeschool your kids.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
For my
Let's
husband's
see here.
request. I was like, yep, of course, okay. That what you want?
Willing to follow a man's lead.
Yeah.
You said that. You mentioned the T word. That's traditional, and especially bad when you follow it with the word woman. Traditional woman. You said that. You said, let's see here.
I guess I'm kicked out the sisterhood.
That's
right.
You're out. You also said, what's the problem with giving a man what he wants?
Yeah, I really don't see a problem with that at all.
Yeah.
I really and truly don't. I honestly don't. And I was told I was pandering to men by saying stuff like that. I'm like, wait, what? That makes no sense to me.
It's so ridiculous because it's like, look. Yeah. It's so ridiculous because, you know, I mean, if you want to stay married, I don't get the, I don't see what the, you know.
Me either. I don't see it.
Okay, so, you know, and one thing I was thinking about when I was watching, and it seemed like it was you were responding to some questions, like some comments. It was like a stream that you did just to respond to some comments. And when I was watching that, I was thinking to myself, you know, one of the reasons why roles are important is because they eliminate spousal competition. Right. So if you have sort of different things that you're doing, then it's like, okay, now we're not competing against each other. Now it's like we're both doing what we need to do, and the real objective is
your role.
That's right. It's the family. You're serving the family. You're both pulling for the family, and so it's less about like, well, you know, you're not supporting my stuff, I'm not supporting your stuff, you know, X, Y, and Z, because it's not about that. You know, it's about what's best for your kids. It's about what's best for the family. So.
No, you know what you said? You said something, and it really reminded me of a time. I know people are gonna think I'm kind of crazy or silly, but you know, when you said, you know, you have your role so that there's no competition, right? Now, listen to this. This might sound crazy, but I remember, I think this was after my third child. So this is my second child with my husband. And I can't remember what it was, but I was doing something and my son was crying and my husband went to tend to him. I really can't remember what I was doing because he was really young. He was like a baby still. And my husband was helping, you know, he was just helping like, you know, a good husband would while his wife was doing whatever. And can you believe I really got upset with my husband for helping? Because in my mind, I was like, no, that's what I'm supposed to do. I am the mom. I should be doing this. So it's like, as you mentioned, eliminate competition, but it's just to show that a woman would more tend to the children. And even though a husband would be there to help and, you know, a woman help her husband as well, it's almost not like it was a competition, but I just felt like, no, that's for me. Like, I want to do that. And, you know, even though he has a great relationship with his children, but it's like, as you say, it eliminates competition. Because imagine if a man was doing a woman's role all the time, a woman will have some form of resentment. And also if a woman was always doing a man's role, like providing and all of that, a man can have resentment to a woman. So if we understand each other's role and obviously assist where necessary, because sometimes, you know, your role can be a bit too much for you and vice versa for a woman, and you would like that helping hand. But I think it just becomes more of a competition when you are in the man's role and if a man's in the woman's role, and then it can be like conflict. So, but yeah, when you mentioned that, it kind of reminded me of that time when my husband was helping and I got upset. And I'm like, wait, Kiesha, calm down. He's just helping. You're busy.
Mhm.
I don't know, it's just roles. I really believe in gender roles, and I'm not telling men not to help their wives. I'm not saying.
Oh yeah, right. No. I think
I hope you understand what I was trying to say.
yeah, I think we understand what you mean exactly. Um, the what was I gonna say? The gender role thing is, of course, that's an interesting problem these days, because there's so much sort of vying for equity or equality in the job market, and and this supposed pay gap, like this, or the difference between what a woman gets and what a man gets, and there's all of this, there's all of that kind of squabbling that's going on, and kind of competing over the same kind of jobs. Of course, women don't want, jobs like post hole digger, brick mason, skyscraper window cleaner,
Right.
Plumber. Women are not fighting for those kinds of jobs, right? Look, if you want parity, okay, I'll give you parity, but I need you fighting for parity in all those kind of jobs also.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like lumberjack.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Trash collector. It's only the jobs.
They want the nice office jobs with the big titles. Right. To make themselves feel like I am so superior to you, and you're underneath me, and you're the worker and I'm the boss. No.
Yeah.
No.
And okay, so Jesse Lee Peterson frequently talks about what he calls, it's like this vertical, it's the order, and he calls this vertical order, it's like God over man, man over woman, women over children. And so he's always talking about that whole vertical thing. Now, what I just said is probably a cancelable offense. So
no, I agree with that. I champion that. But then again, maybe because, like I mentioned, I transitioned back into my spiritual journey and got a real true understanding of the order of things. That's why I think it doesn't offend me. And it's like, okay, I get it. I understand it. So I literally don't see anything wrong with that. It's God, God, man, wife, children.
Right.
That's how it is.
And what's being said there also, it's not just men over any women. No, it's a man over his wife. It's a specific thing that we're talking about. We're not just saying all men are over all women. That's not what we're saying.
Right.
We're saying, look, we're married. Mm-hmm. Okay. so the man over his wife, and not as in a sort of lording, like I can tell you what to do. You got to jump when I say jump. It's not that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's more about providing protection, and as Kevin Samuels frequently says, stress is for shoulders and not hips.
Yeah.
And there's just certain things that men were designed to be able to withstand, and vice versa, things that women were designed to be able to withstand, that are going to be better than the opposite.
Yeah. It's funny because you said something and it really triggered a thought, but then the thought went. But I really hope it comes back to me. But it's all about, I remember what I was going to say. I think now the reason why there is this, because recently uploaded some content about the Willie Lynch letter. I know some people has been in my comments like, oh, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. I'm like, okay, whether it's a hoax or not, what are we seeing in today's what's the action that we're seeing in today's day and age? It shows that what was written in 1712 is still is manifesting here in 2022. And I think with the breaking of our ancestors, because when you read that, you understand that men were the leaders, men were the head of the household, right? And the oppressors broke that. They went through a lot of horrid things, what they've done to our forefathers, foreparents, and caused what we're seeing today in our community, because it was done to our people, right? So I think now, and as mentioned even in the book, it says don't pay attention to the current generation in which we are trying to break. We're going to see the results in the future generations. And you know what is quite interesting about that as well is it's mainly in our community you will see this fight with the man, as in, I want to lead, like the woman saying, I want to lead more than allowing the man to lead. Now, as I've always shared with my audience, that me and my husband, we moved to Egypt, right? So we lived in Egypt for just over a year, a little bit over a year, right? And when we were there, if a man was to come to our house where we were, they don't ask to speak to me, they ask for my husband. When anywhere, like a woman ain't even supposed to address a man in such, especially if your husband is there. Obviously, if I went somewhere by myself, they will deal with me. But if a man is there, it is just the man to speak. Because I remember there was something that when we went for the first time, obviously I never been to Egypt, I've never lived there, but my husband's been there and lived there before. And when I don't know what was happening, but I was attempting to speak, and my husband was like, be quiet. And I had to be quiet, because even like the other man was kind of looking at me like, why are you speaking? So basically I'm saying that to say, in other cultures, the women are aware that when men are around, women, like, the men are going to speak. The women don't have nothing to do with two men speaking. But when in the Western world, where this breaking of certain traditions that our forefathers, our foreparents had in place, where the women knew that it was the men who lead, with the breaking of all of that now, today, we don't even understand our place. That when men are talking, you have nothing, why are you speaking? Especially in a setting where you and your husband, or a woman and her husband, is present with another man. So I think that's why a lot of women today have a problem with leadership, because of the breaking and of everything else that's been put in place to keep us at a disadvantage. That's what I honestly feel.
Yeah, I mean, Black communities tend to be matriarchies, and shout out to BGS. He calls it the gynocracy. And the gynocracy has been in control in the Black community for all this time. And, the reason that it has led us down a sort of path of destruction is because there is a certain order of things that we have purposely ignored and just been defiant and decided we were going to do it our own way. And our own way didn't work.
Right.
You know how we do it. We get a hold of something. We just get a hold of a little something, and we do it our way. And our way is not, isn't the right way. And this is the thing is this would be the case with any society. I did a Thunder's Thoughts episode last week called "Here's How to Destroy the Black Community in 3 Easy Steps."
What an interesting title.
Yeah, well, I'll admit that it was a little bit of clickbait to try to get folks to click, but I did discuss what those 3 things were. I reviewed a couple videos that sort of laid out the sort of history of things, and basically the 3 things, the 3 things are: number 1, slavery, of course. Everything started with slavery. Number 2 was destroy our financial centers. So the destruction of Black Wall Street. And there were dozens of Black Wall Streets. So state-sanctioned terror against those organizations. Also forced integration. And I'd say those two things are very connected, because with integration, it was not done in a balanced fashion. If it was, then they would have been moving white people into black neighborhoods too. But that's not what they did. They just spread us all out. So now we don't have the same sort of allegiance to each other. We don't pull in the same direction. And again, shout out to BGS. Ibmore, I interviewed him on this same program, Conversations with Dr. Thunder. And one thing that he was bringing up was that the slaves were hundreds, thousands of different peoples from all these different tribes. And so the only thing that we really had in common was slavery. And this is why we were actually less what is the less dysfunctional under slavery than after slavery. Right? Now, after slavery, I think we had sort of recovered and repaired in many ways. We had a high marriage rate, 80%, 85%, low out of wedlock birth rate, all of the markers. And since segregation was intact, we were forced to have to deal with each other and to pull in the same direction. But then what happened is, because of this forced integration, destroying our financial centers, that spread us all out. And then what happened is it makes it makes that sort of not really having a singular focus as a people, as black people. It made that very much more obvious. And then the third thing, of course, is split up the family. Right? And in order to split up the family, you have to have at least one party that is compliant, one party that is willing to do that. And in our case, that party tended to be women, right? And they were taking checks from the government, and the government would not allow them to have a man in the house. We watch a short clip of what's that? I can't think of the name of it now, and it's got I can't think of the name of it now.
Might come back to you.
Claire, what is it? Claire, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's a movie where a woman has got 5 kids, and so the social worker comes over unannounced. The guy has to hide in the closet, right? And he says that his name is Simpson X when he comes out of the closet, right? Simpson X, right? And I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was an example again of the sort of fear of being caught with a black man in your home if you're taking money from the government. I'm sure in the comments when this video premieres, I'll remember the name of that movie and I'll put it in the comments for folks. But yeah, I mean, but those are the 3 easy steps: slavery, forced integration, and the destruction of our financial centers, Black Wall Street, and then third, split up the black family. And so you have totally destroyed the black community. And unless we start doing things differently, and I think in particular return to a traditional focus on marriage and on family, our community is doomed.
And women have to really understand that a man is supposed to lead us. if we just understand that, and like you said, the family fall into line, because in order for the family to fall into line, the woman have to know and understand and respect the leadership of her husband.
Right.
And that is how it's, and it's funny because when people hear the word leadership, they just think of a dictatorship, and they don't understand that, no, a woman, a husband and a wife, they will talk about things, but at the end of the day, what your husband say is final. You know, because if I've got any concerns about anything, I can bring it to my husband and I'll share my concerns about it. And of course, the husband, a good leader, is going to take on board what his wife is saying and, you know, reassure her if reassurance is needed, or he can take it on board and goes, okay, maybe I need to pivot and look at things differently. But at the end of the day, the decision is made by the man, and that is it. And women have to just remember that, listen, okay, that's how it is. Let's just go and roll with the punches. So
okay, and here's something else too. I think that people have in their mind that I think is just it just shows that they just have never seen a quote unquote traditional marriage, or you know, right. they just don't understand it at all. Because look, you have what, 41,000 subscribers or something on your YouTube channel. Yeah. You're making content regularly. It's not like you don't have anything that is your own. You obviously do, and you obviously have your own thoughts and ideas. You're not a robot. Yeah. You're not some sort of Stepford wife. Right. You're not sort of you know, hidden, you know, out of sight, and you know, it's not that kind of it's not that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's just I don't know. There's just like all of these negative. Obviously, the culprit of this is feminism. Yeah. Now, of course, everyone, you know, I haven't met a lot of people that disagree with like first wave feminism. You know, the right to vote, to own property, you know, all of those kinds of things. You know, I don't see a lot of, you know, equal pay for, you know, for you know, for work, all of that kind of stuff. I don't think anybody. I mean, I'm sure there's a few people, some weirdos, but I don't think that people are really debating that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's this stuff that came after that. Yeah. You know, the sexual revolution. Mm-hmm. It's this sort of all of the other sort of alphabet. You know, all of that stuff that sort of got packaged in there. It's that stuff that I think has done a lot of damage, and at least it has confused people. Look, if people want to embrace that, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. But just don't come after me or come after us when we have an idea of something that actually has been shown to work better than what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, because even like you mentioned, you know, I have my own thoughts and I'm not a robot or whatever. It's like these feminists today think if a woman don't see things their way, it's like, oh, you're just saying this to appeal to these men. And I'm like, first and foremost, I am married. I don't need to be appealing to all these men out there. I've already got the man that I want to be with. So, you know, me sharing my thoughts is just me sharing my thoughts as a woman. And like you mentioned, it's working for me. And clearly these very women who are out here being feminists and talking all the foolishness that they're talking, they're the ones who are single and it's not working for them. So wouldn't you think to yourself, maybe let me listen to this woman, maybe let me just take in what the men are saying and, you know, see if I can apply it to my life and see what changes I have, you know? But they think women who agree with men are, like you say, pikmis, mammies, women who don't think for themselves. And it's like, really? Anyway.
Yeah. So let me ask you about this. Kevin Samuels is from a sector of YouTube called the Black Manosphere, and a lot of what you say, the stuff that you have said in this interview, many things that your reactions to his content and just other things that you've said, that's stuff that folks from the Black Manosphere, the folks that are watching this video right now that are from that space, they're probably amening, yes sir, clapping, standing up, standing ovation. They're probably doing all that kind of stuff in the comments right now. They're probably all kinds of just breath of fresh air, all that kind of comment. My question to you is, what do you think of the Black Manosphere, and do you think it as a positive thing, as a net positive, or do you think of it as kind of maybe the jury's still out or whatever?
Personally, for me, I definitely think it's a good thing, especially for men, to be heard. And like I said as well, when I first listened to Kevin Samuels, obviously when my husband introduced me to him, but when I was able to listen to him, I was able to really understand it from a man's perspective, especially as I mentioned, like my younger brother who had told me like, this is how women are today. So for women who really want to get on men's page, and be in her correct role, i.e. allowing the man to lead and she will follow his lead, it will definitely help those women who probably didn't have someone to tell them how men think, or didn't have a father present or a father figure present. So I think it's positive, because that will help the men get the women they want, and the women who want to follow a man lead would know exactly what is required of her. So I look at it as a good thing, but I have to say there are some people in the manosphere that I'm just like, okay, what are you talking about? This makes no sense. And there is this duo that I just don't really, that duo. I don't really want to say their name if I can, or I don't know. But
you could say whatever you want to, but if you want to keep it to yourself, that's fine too.
Well, the Fresh and Fit guys, like, I don't really like their content so much. So I feel like there's parts of the manosphere that is helpful and part that's not so helpful, because I just feel like but then again, you have the good and the bad in everything. And it's like we mentioned earlier, you just eat the meat and spit the bone out, right? So
right.
But generally, I think it's a good space for women who really want to get on, a good space for the men, and also for women who want to get on a man's page to come in, listen, and act accordingly. Now, you also mentioned earlier, not just put on just to get the man and then that's it. No, women who really want to have a better outcome in life, it's great for them as well. So I think it serves a dual purpose for both men and women who want to get along.
Yeah, sometimes, so in my Thunder Thoughts program, I have I have a scene that, I press a button and this scene comes up and it says warning, and it basically warns people that what it is that I'm saying, this is going to be a mature conversation. If you're easily offended, then go somewhere else. And yeah, that's right. And it often is the case that people these days, they will click a video that they know they're going to be offended. They're offended by the thumbnail. They're offended by
the title.
That's right. And it's like they click it anyway, and then they get in there, and of course they're triggered, and then now they want to, look, you already knew that you weren't going to like this. Look, it's not for you. Go somewhere else. You didn't have to click that. You could have gone somewhere else.
And you didn't have to watch the entire video to tell me you
Right.
wasted X amount of time of your life.
That was your choice. That's right. That was your choice. And so I have that screen, and it. Well, actually, I'll show you. I'll show you what that screen looks like. Here it is.
Oh, Lord.
Right. Yeah. So that's what that. I mean, it's pretty loud and obnoxious and everything, but the point is, the fact that we even have to do that. Look, the programming is on certain topics that I think they're important topics. I think it's an important conversation. One of the things about the Manosphere, the Black Manosphere in particular, is that it's like the only place with regularity and frankness that you hear conversation about maybe the most important topic, and that is, as it were, the state of Black love. Right? Because if you can't get people together, they can't populate the planet.
Right.
They can't rebuild the communities. I mean, we're done. If we can't even get that one thing together, everything's over.
I agree.
And it's the one place where it seems like the most constructive conversation, and the first time in my lifetime where there was a place where men are actually heard, and they can, look. There's this thing that happens where there's a lot of gaslighting. Okay. So, if I were to share some of my experiences, there's going to be a segment of the population, most of the population, we'll say, that is going to pretend like something's wrong with me, that they themselves hadn't even had that experience before. And I'll tell you, these simp enforcers, and shout out to Mr. Palmer. These simp enforcers. Yeah, it's the men that will basically, yeah. Well, it's the men that basically they'll say anything necessary, to be accepted by women, anything at all. They're in destructive stuff, personally self-deprecating stuff. They'll come in riding on a white horse, because they're in here to save the day. I'm going to save you from these misogynist men, or whatever, that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you, these cats will be the worst cats, because you'll try to have a conversation with them, and it's like you don't know what team they're playing for. It's like you've really never had like a negative experience. You really have to yourself said that, you know what, the reason that I've ever had a challenge with women is because it's all been my fault. I've just, made all of the bad decisions. I was always the worst person in the situation. And it's like, come on, that is just not real.
Sims need to really get this in their heads, right? And I'm being honest. Women, we don't really like a man that is just always I'm being honest. No, real women don't like a man that they can rule. Because if I can rule you, I don't respect you. And I know some women are going to say, oh, she's just trying to. No, I'm being serious. Like me personally, I cannot be with someone that I feel like I can dominate. If I can dominate you, I'm going to treat you like, Women like a man that is masculine. Like even these women that, these, what do you call them? Strong, independent women. They really desire a strong, masculine man. That is super appealing to them, really. They really want a man to put them in their place. They want a man that can stand up to them. Because when that man stands up to her, she's like, oh, okay, all right. She really wants to be put in her place, but she just don't want to have to tell a man, put me in my place. She wants him to can do that naturally. So simps, you might get in there for a little bit, but she ain't gonna have no respect for you. I'm talking from me personally. I don't respect simps. Simps
And I'm gonna.
used by women.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you. Here's my definition of simp. So, a simp, or simping, rather, the action that a simp takes. Simping is prioritizing pleasure over purpose. It's prioritizing pleasure over purpose, right? Because a simp will say anything just so they can get a little bit of attention right now. But what a man is supposed to do is supposed to be prioritizing the long game. They're supposed to be able to subdue their feelings, their emotions, their desires now, so that they can focus on the future, right? You can't have everybody focusing on the stuff in the moment. You need somebody considering what's down the road. And so that's what a man is supposed to do.
Sorry to interrupt you. I really want to say this because I'm feeling what you're saying, okay? When a man is on his purpose and he is more focused on that, that is so appealing to a woman. She would be ready to give you the pleasure that you are seeking just from focusing on your desires. She will want to, she's like, oh babe, you have a break yet? Can we have some time together? And she's gonna love that because it's like, my man he has purpose, he has drive, and he is somebody. But if you're chasing after me all the time, I'm gonna be like, dude, don't you have nothing better to do? Come on, like, is that all you think about? But when a man is more focused on his purpose and his vision and his future, and it's all quote unquote what in her eyes it seems like he thinks about, he becomes even more appealing to her. Well, real women at that. I can't talk for all of them. I'm talking about the good traditional woman. She's like, oh, dang, that's my husband over there focusing on his purpose. Ooh.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry to interrupt. I really wanted to say that because men need to really and truly understand that. They really need to understand, don't chase her. Obviously, you want to show that I'm interested in you, but I'm not going to be like, oh my God, please see me. No, I'm going to let you know I'm interested, but I'm focused over here though. And then you, as the woman, go make sure he sees you, okay, and get picked, okay?
That's right. So a couple things I wanted to say with reference to Fresh and Fit, and I met those guys. I went to a conference, Donovan Sharp's conference called the CME Conference of Masculine Excellence. It was a terrific conference. It was in Vegas, and they were Myron was one of the speakers. So I met those guys, and they're pretty down to earth guys. I think one of the reasons why a lot of folks kind of like that's not their cup of tea. First of all, they have said some sort of controversial things. Recently, they said this thing about
yeah, I heard
kind
that.
of like they don't date black women, basically. They don't, whatever, something about dark meat or something. So
I think the one Myron said that only if they're light skin or something like that.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. So there is that, and I do think that some of that stuff was taken out of context, but also, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, okay. But then the other thing is you have to understand that the dating market now is even completely different than it was just a few years ago.
Right.
And what younger guys are facing is just so much more. It's magnitudes worse than it was even a couple years ago. Right. It's just ever worsening. And though you may not condone their method to try to address the problems that they face in the dating market, at least I think that they do a good job of describing what the issues are, and by having young women constantly saying this stuff that they're saying, and sort of at least giving a certain perspective from a young man's perspective. So I take it as valuable in that I think that there's a lot of sort of real-time research data that you can sort of gather from it, not unlike what Kevin does in his conversations with these women that call in. But, you know, it's like we were saying before, eat the meat and spit out the bone. So, you know, that kind of thing. And then the other thing I wanted to say was we were talking about simps, you know. So I did an episode of Thunder's Thoughts called "Was Adam the First Simp?"
Why would Adam be a simp?
Well, the resounding answer to that question is yes. Yes, he was.
Oh, really?
So this is why. This is why I think.
He took the apple, the fruit.
Oh yeah. So this is why I suggest this. Remember my definition of simping: prioritizing pleasure over purpose. Okay. Now, God gave Adam very clear instructions about what he was allowed to do and what he was not allowed to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. It was his job to communicate those directives to Eve, to his wife. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Now she was fooled by the serpent. She ate the fruit. Okay. But I think what got us kicked out of the garden was not that she made a mistake. Mm-hmm. It's that he wouldn't own his part in it. Mm-hmm. He says, you know, it was the woman that you gave me. Mm-hmm. She gave me the fruit and then I ate it. He didn't say, you know what? I screwed this up. I shouldn't have followed that. Even if she gave it to me, I knew that you told me not to eat it.
Yeah.
I did it anyway, right? He didn't do any of that.
Right.
So in my mind, he is simping in that he is prioritizing. he's
prioritizing like that, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but he's prioritizing pleasure over purpose. I mean, consider all the jobs that he was given by God to name all the animals and all of this stuff that he had. That was his purpose. He threw all of that away to eat this apple, which he knew he wasn't supposed to do. So that's the thought. And if men are supposed to be the leaders, this is an epic fail.
Ooh,
this is an epic fail.
Ask a question. That sparks an interesting question for me to ask you. Now, I completely understand your train of thought and how you get to simping. It's just so funny saying that Adam was a simp. But let me ask this question. So, as we mentioned, we know Kevin Samuel speak about these high-value men who have their purpose and all of these things. And now, as you mentioned, if a man is putting pleasure over purpose, that's simping. So, what would you say about the high-value men who exercise their option by putting pleasure over
yes.
Would that be simping? Yes. High value men simp? And then if he did do that, does he get a pass?
I like this. And this is of course, this is one of these issues that this is one of the more controversial things that he has said. Now understand, if you follow him, he has said frequently, more than twice, more than 3 times, that in his own relationships, he has never cheated.
Yeah.
He's never. Okay. So he's not suggesting that, high value man,
do that. Yeah. He's not saying that they do it.
Right. He's not even saying that they should do it. No, he's just saying that, look, women are are hyper focused on this top level guy,
Yeah.
right? And they're idealizing this top level guy rather than seeing, seeing the person that would actually be a right match for them, someone that's on the same level that they could develop, they could grow, they could build together, all of that. They don't want to do that. They want to they want to wait until the man has the bag, and then go get the guy with the bag. That's the approach these days.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do that, what's going to happen is you're going to be in competition with a lot of women.
Yes.
And so that's that whole exercising options, is that the guys at that level, they don't have to commit because everybody wants them.
They don't have to commit?
No, I'm saying
so is that saying that they can simp and it'd be okay because they don't have to commit? Because clearly when he's speaking, when Kevin's speaking, he's speaking about these women who want to get in a relationship with these high value men, and then they're in the relationship with the high value men. Now, what I've always said is this: if you go into a relationship and you make it be known that, hey, I may exercise my options, boom, boom, boom. If you and that woman iron out your agreement with that, I don't see anything wrong with that. I wouldn't call that simping because there is something in place. We've discussed this. But what about those who don't? Like, for example, Derek Jackson,
Oh, right. If you can call him a high value man.
No, I'm not trying to. I'm not saying no, but based off what these women are talking about, right? Because he have millions, I assume, and he's kind of a high profile guy to a certain degree, and was he? Well, I guess
Derek Jackson. Derek Jackson, and this is shout out to Gail at night. She came up with this. Derek Jackson is a high earning pookie. There's a difference between a high value man and a high earning pookie.
No, I agree. I agree that the difference between high earning and high value, definitely. Okay, I think Derek was a terrible example, but
no, but I take your point. I take your point. I understand what you're saying, and I mean, if you have not had that conversation and you're out there exercising your options, then I would say it's a violation of the relationship.
So high value men
I don't know if I would call that simping.
Purpose over pleasure.
Yeah. I think if you're so one of the issues that I have with the sort of PUAs, the pickup artists,
what is a PUA?
and a lot of the sort of dating coaches, a lot of that stuff. Pick up artist.
Oh, okay.
Okay. One of the issues that I have with that sort of segment of, the Manosphere or whatever, that approach is that by teaching men how to basically increase their success, to rack up their notch count as it were, and by giving them strategies to do that, all you're doing is teaching them how to simp.
Yeah.
Because they're prioritizing pleasure over purpose. Really what they should be doing is getting their money up, getting their investment portfolio together, getting their health right, changing what they're eating, working out consistently. That's what they should be doing. Getting some spirituality. There's a bunch of things that they should be doing. Getting elevated in their career. Getting a second and a third job. Kevin talks about, if you're not working at least 60 hours, then don't complain to me about being broke. So that's what they should be doing. That would be on their purpose. But teaching guys how to basically, rack up their notch counts, that's simping.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And you know what I've always said, and it's not even just me, it's a saying. They say you'll never lose women chasing your purpose, but you always well, what's the saying? You know that saying, never lose
Yeah.
money. I don't know. I kind of
Hey,
messed that up. But
yeah,
you will
yeah,
lose you lose money chasing women, but you never lose woman chasing money. That's
there
it.
you
That's
go.
the saying.
There you go. That's it.
I
That's it.
got
That's
it.
it. Yep. Yeah. I
So
mean, I think it is. I think it's totally true. Um, you know,
it's very true, yeah.
purpose is everything. You know, purpose is everything. And if you are willing to sacrifice their purpose, and if you're willing to, see, what is it? What is this? Self-deprecate, just for, just for the possibility of some attention from a woman.
That is
It's miserable. But now, I'm gonna say this, because of the way that things have become. It's close to 70-80% of guys are almost totally invisible to women, and so I can understand why guys feel helpless, or they feel as though any attention is worth getting, whatever I have to do to get any kind of attention. And then I also understand that when you're a young man, say it again.
No, it says attention from the wrong woman is not the best. Like, you want to get attention from the right type of woman. But
but if you consider that a lot of these guys are maybe never will get any attention from a woman, and I understand that when you're in your 20s, early 20s, late teens, early 20s, through probably mid 30s or something, it's hard to focus on anything else. Rather than trying to get some kind of attention from women. It's a biological imperative. I understand that. However, you got to overcome it. You have to put that aside and focus on, getting everything right. Because what'll happen is once you get those things together, you'll have so many better options.
Yes.
So many better options.
Yes. So. That is very, very true. I agree with that.
All right. Well, I have really enjoyed our conversation. I hope you have too.
Me too. I really enjoyed it. To be honest, I was nervous. I always get nervous when I'm doing anything, but I really enjoyed it. It was quite smooth. I loved it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I interviewed Melanie King.
Yes, I watched that.
That's what's playing back there.
I see it.
Yeah. That was a good conversation, and she, you and her have many things in common with respect to the way that you kind of look at the whole traditional thing and family values and all that kind of stuff. And so this has been sort of a breath of fresh air for me to talk to you both. Is there anything that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, definitely. You guys can always come over to my channel to check out my reactions, to hear me share my thoughts, opinions, and experiences where necessary on some of the reactions that I'm doing regarding whatever video I'm reacting to, whether it's a Kevin Samuels video or anybody else's content, just to have a different type of conversation. And also, if you are interested in taking care of your natural hair, you can always check out my website, www.herewegrow.store, and get your hands on some of my products and care for your natural, wonderful, beautiful hair that sprouts from your scalp. So yeah, and also follow me on Instagram, and that's Kiesha_Arielle_.
All right. Wonderful. Have a good one.
All right then, bye-bye.
Bye.